Excited right now to be here with my friend and colleague, Dr. Andrew Kaufman, who has been really leading this movement of awareness around how the dominant narrative around COVID being this lethal invisible particle that sprung up in Wuhan, a wet market or some kind of bioweapons facility, taking over the planet, required the complete cessation of most social economic activity on the planet, as well as suspension of our civil rights and the implosion of the economy, the injection of a global governance structure that some would call the New World Order. All of this being done on the back of this invisible particle that we are all convinced was isolated, identified, and that is being tested everywhere. People are dying, in the droves from it. And yet, from the beginning, this man that I have great respect for and has incredible courage, has been telling the truth from the perspective of the science itself. And there's just so much you've already done. I encourage everyone to go to your website. We'll say it again at the end. And also go to Questioning COVID, where we have a lot of your videos already set up for the red pill of going down the rabbit hole, asking, are germs real? What are viruses? Can they kill a person? And then, of course, the topic of exosomes, where, just to give people a preview, your discussion on how COVID-19, if you will, is actually an extra cellular vesicle called an exosome, is absolutely compelling and just blows my mind. So anyway, I'm so excited to have you here today, introduce my following and readers to your work. And, the sky's the limit here. I'd love to know what's top of your mind on this topic and what you'll be sharing today.
Well, thank you so much, Sayer. And, I can't believe we haven't done this sooner, because we've had some really excellent conversations. And, you're one of the few people that I can really talk about this, on a deep scientific level. And that's really helped me, develop and clarify some of my ideas about things. So I really appreciate this collegiality, and it's great to be here to talk about this. And what I see going on is that over and over they're putting out more and more papers, basically using the same exact experimental methods, and sort of calling it more evidence. And so periodically, because I put out this sort of challenge, if you will, early on, I said, if anyone has a paper that they think proves that this virus exists or that causes a disease, please send it to me, because I want to have a chance to look at it and see, because I'm willing to change my mind if new evidence does come. But what I've seen over and over again, and there are papers, where they claim to have sequenced the genome, and then there are papers like the one we're going to discuss in detail today, which claims to prove causality. And in this case, they again use Koch's postulates, which is a standard that I've talked a lot about. So as these papers keep coming out, it's great to, have a chance to look at them in depth. But what I'm really seeing is the same fraudulent claims, sometimes outright lies that I'll demonstrate, as well as, using the same kind of experimental techniques that don't adequately do what they set out to do.
Can I ask you then, are you then saying, for those who are new to this topic, that they may not have actually even sequenced the genome of this virus that has effectively shut down the world and reorganized the world, that for so many people, they just can't even consider that that's even possible, because it's a real thing. And of course, they've done this probably in labs throughout the world, and they haven't proven causality? So these are great things to bring to the fore. And that is actually exactly what you have been doing, is showing that the emperor wears no clothes. There is no evidence, apparently, to prove those things. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the genome issue is one, I don't want to get into it in detail today, but what I would accurately describe what they have done is that they've created a theoretical computer model of a genome of a theoretical virus.
Huh.
And I'm working on actually a white paper, like a scientific type paper, discussing that with Kevin Corbett. We're collaborating on that. So hopefully that will be out, in the next several weeks. I want to do a really good job. But, if anyone wants to look into next generation sequencing, that's the main technique that they're using. And that's a really powerful technique to sequence a genome of an organism which you already know their genome.
No.
So in other words, you can use it as a shortcut, and then you can compare it to the reference genome, right? And then you have that organism. So it's great if you like trying to look for a mutation that may be associated with a disease, because you already know what the sequence is, and then you finding where the sequence has changed. But to use it to show a brand new organism that's never been sequenced before, there's no way to tell what you've got because you have no reference to compare it to. So that's why they use the computer modeling to essentially just create a genome out of, from scratch. And that's why different labs that have done this have genomes that are different lengths and different sequences. They say that it's a mutating virus, but really what it is they can't reproduce the experiment because they're just theoretically constructing a novel genome.
So out of curiosity then, when we hear about there being over 100 coronavirus types that have been identified, theoretically, those themselves could be really exosomes or, cellular debris or nucleic acids that were misidentified as being viral, but then were synthesized into this picture that then, like you're saying, it wasn't just found there and sequenced, it was synthesized because it's, I guess it's such at a nanoscale anyway.
the 4 sections.
There's no cover.
I present the single most powerful incantation ever recorded, and you focus on the binding.
I'm sorry, Vegas. You're right. It's an amazing feat. Congratulations.
Congratulations to us both. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and I won't forget that. Even in its incomplete form. I've learned so much. The book wants to be whole, it wants to be one. It's been looking for me as much as I've been looking for it.
You talk about it like it's alive.
It is, in its own way. And once I pledge my loyalty to the book, it'll make itself whole. Okay, let's see beyond the mea. It's a binding contract. I need you to be the witness.
You want me to cut off my finger?
Your thumbprint will do.
Is this a contract with the Vatican or with you?
Both. And so we began. The Vatican will draw the missing piece to it like a magnet. The rest of the book can be stolen from anywhere, so you have to keep your eyes open.
How about?
Good night.
Well, that was intense.
It's probably Edward and Alyssa. Off making sweet, sweet magic together somewhere. I meant that in a literal sense.
I don't want to talk about this anymore, okay? You know, I just don't understand why she can't see what a monster he is.
It's because your monster is her idol. You can't tear someone's idol down for them. They have to do that themselves.
That hamster's right.
Don't call me that.
I'm no fan of Coventry's, but objectively, he does have a high bangability factor.
You're talking about my girlfriend.
Ex-girlfriend.
And my dad.
He's not your dad. He's some guy who dumped his seed into your mom and took off.
Whoa.
You got a better way to describe him?
Biological father?
Sure, that works.
Maybe Alyssa's right about you quitting the order.
It's not that easy. Remember what happened to Lilith and her memory?
I know.
Yeah, if I'm lucky, that's all it'll take.
Knights, we have a new project. Find a way to restore Jack's memory. We can test it out on Lilith.
I don't want my memory back.
Well, it would be so cool. What if you find out you can shred the electric guitar? We can start a band. Randall and the Werewolves.
Why don't I get top billing?
If you have to ask, that's why.
I could deal with the shredding. I just don't want to live in any world where I was besties with Alyssa Drake.
That was annoying.
And longer than usual.
Maybe we should go check that out.
It's been a long night for all of us. Get some rest. Whatever it is, it can wait.
Go inside and pack. You're done here.
No,
This isn't a debate.
you're right. I'm staying.
We had a plan. And it was a good one.
Oh, it was a long shot, Pops, okay?
Now you're letting some girl fuck it all up.
No, we broke up.
Oh, okay, let's get some breakfast. Maybe we can just salvage this mess.
Pops. My life is really complicated right now, and I'm trying to sort some stuff out.
You're 18. How complicated can your life be?
You really want to know?
Yeah. Why don't you show me, Jan? Show me and your mother Just okay. What the fuck? What have I done to you?
The order didn't do anything, Pops. Remember that werewolf I was hunting? Well, it turns out he's part of another secret society, the Knights of St. Christopher, and I've basically been working as a double agent for them, okay? Is that complicated enough for you?
You'd rather fight the order with a bunch of werewolves than you and flesh and blood?
That's your takeaway from this? How does that even matter as long as we take down Coventry? Right?
At least have a plan.
Coventry is searching for something, and I'm trying to figure out what it is.
God. Unbelievable. You got fangs. You got claws. You still don't know what to do. What the hell's wrong with you?
I don't know, Pete. Maybe I don't want to kill people. Maybe I'm fucking tired of everyone else telling me what to do.
Guess that's your choice.
Nothing was ever my choice.
Hemmings is dead. There was a fire at his lab.
At least he died doing what he loved.
The fire was magical and used to cover up the fact that he was murdered by werewolves.
Oh,
It also destroyed several manuscripts and artifacts from this reliquary, items Hemmings took without my permission. There's only one way he could have done that. Magic. Or Edward granted him access.
Hemmings was working for the Grand Magus. What do you think he was doing?
And its disciples. And yes, I empowered him without consulting the Gnostic Council. Time was of essence.
It's a phone call.
With the conference away.
That does sound reasonable, Vera.
The Gnostic Council exists for the welfare of the entire order.
Absolutely. Which is why I'm here to tell you that I have initiated the Vadimecum Infernal as approved by this council.
You've restored the book.
Almost. As it turns out, the Vadimecum is all that I need to destroy these pests.
Until then,
We need to do everything that we can to keep the werewolves away from the temple. You were right, Kepler. The book attracts them. It's time for action. I want to build our new future. I trust I have the council's support.
Of course.
the incantation will be our crowning achievement.
And now,
I thought you were working on recovered memory spells.
We did. Now we're relaxing.
A previous Tundra, the most brilliant of the knights, wrote about it in one of the journals, and this Tundra found it.
So now you can quit, get wiped, and then we can reboot you.
You're sure it worked?
Worked on Lola. She's particularly enjoying the Alyssa memories.
I'm gonna do it.
You're kicking magic to the curb?
I am quitting the order.
It's about time. It's funny, I always thought the temple was under the reference library instead of this haunted house, which makes more sense, you know, metaphorically.
Remember when getting into the order was all I ever wanted? Now I'm just walking away from it.
Priorities change.
Yeah, I guess.
Now get in there and lose your mind.
Oh,
Don't worry, got your back.
Brandon, have you finished? Is it immaculate?
Yes, Malcolm.
Okay, I get changed. It's time.
Everyone get dressed. Now.
should be happy to see me. I'm here to get hit with the amnesia dust.
You wanna quit? Right now?
Yeah. Anything to help me forget what I saw last night. My mother is dead because of your hero.
He's my mentor. And fuck you for thinking anything else.
Well, we both get what we want if you do what I ask. And trust me, it'll be the last thing I ever ask you for.
Why don't you just leave now? We kicked it anyway for skipping the ceremony, and it's a win-win for both of us, so I think that you should... Jack. Jack. Jack, you can't go. Jack.
It's like it stung me.
You need to get out of here. Right now.
Is everything all right, Alyssa? Alyssa? You're the worst acolyte ever. First you're late, and then you tell me you're sick. Pretend that you're sick.
Oh, that won't be hard.
Seriously, what were you thinking? You could have sneezed all over the altar during an incantation. You'd ruin everything. Randall!
Something's wrong.
Did you wipe too much of his memory? Does he think he's a baby?
No.
What happened to you?
Silverback. Something's wrong. He's fighting me.
You need to get him out of here. Hurry.
Have I taught you nothing?
I'm drinking to forget.
At least let me garnish it.
Guys, something's wrong. Something's wrong with Jack.
My skin is on fire.
Guys, look. Sorry.
That's Silverback.
Who did this to him? Was it that bitch Alyssa? Whom I loved once. Like a sister, you perverts.
What were they doing at that temple?
They're preparing for something called the Vadi Maycom.
Oh, fuck. I really wish you hadn't returned my memory.
Guys!
Jack. Over here. What took you so long? I've been waiting here for an eternity. You're dead. I'm dead. I know. I know everything, actually. I know about the Order's magic. I know you're a werewolf. I know your dad is a total show. Okay, stop. What's happening here? Where are we? This is the afterlife. So you're a ghost? Yeah, or a spirit. I don't know. I'm a little shaky on the terms, but... Are you saying that I'm dead? I'm saying we should go get a drink.
Clean this.
Miss Drake, I hope I'm not disturbing you.
Of course not, Vegas.
You've been with him since the beginning. He trusts you, which means now I have to trust you, which is not ideal, but here we are. Now tell me, what is happening to the grandmothers?
He's bonding with the book. He says they're becoming one.
I think it's changing you. Of course it is. Starting prematurely was dangerous. There's no way he's in control of it. We serve the Order.
You know, it's election season and I live in California. I don't know why. It's like if I wanted...
Fast, or do you want to make my stupid memories, so shut up and let me use them.
This potion will cure him, right?
No, but it should buy us time to figure out what's happening. Pour this into that and shake it.
I remember when we broke my arm for even suggesting we do magic.
Yeah, we'll break it if you don't shake faster.
So how could a spell book do this to him?
I already told you, the Vademecum isn't just a spell book. It gives you absolute control over magic. No sacrifices, no potions, no spells. It's like you literally become magic.
Why doesn't everyone do it?
One book, one person. That's the deal. You should be ready. Sit him up.
Alright, Jack, up we go. Up we go. Up we go. Here we go, buddy. Oh, shit. Here we go.
Time. Yeah.
Good. Stop it.
Okay. And swallow.
I think it's working.
His grandfather. He deserves to know what's happening.
Yeah, your nose is bleeding. I'm not dead? My bet is you're dying. Otherwise you wouldn't be here.
Oh, that's terrible.
Drea? Weston? You're here too?
I told you he asks too many fucking questions.
Ignore him.
Where you meet your true friends.
Your best enemies.
Wait, what?
Alyssa?
He's been tutoring you for how long? You still haven't learned to see wipe their minds with a little obfuscation, pal. Who cares?
Hey! Get off her! Ignore it, ignore it. They're not really here.
You get used to it.
Look, that wasn't actually Kyle and Alyssa. It's just a memory.
You were probably thinking about her.
Where are you going?
Magus?
Come.
We're ready for the next incantation. Your hand.
Have you seen anything yet? Unexpected.
जिंदगी हमें उन लोगों के हाथों ही तोड़ती है.
Calling all cars. Calling all cars. Man trying to enter an office building on 4th and Main with no mask. Repeat, no mask.
I walked into my job late last week when my co-workers all began to freak. They started cursing and began to shout and said quite rudely as the boss threw me out, "You need a mask. I need a COVID mask. A COVID mask. It seemed a lot to ask. To wear a mask. To do a simple task. Put on a mask. I need a COVID mask. Made it mandatory almost every place that we can't be seen unless we hide our face. I can't even leave my humble abode without something covering my mouth and nose. We need a mask. We need a COVID mask. A COVID mask. It seems a lot to ask. To wear a mask. Can't even mow my grass without a mask. Without a COVID mask. This mask wearing isn't fun. And the snitching has now begun. My neighbor called the hotline cause my dog wasn't wearing one. Walking through the mall, a woman's voice did ring. Seemed she was troubled by just one thing. She pointed to the door, shook her fist and said,
"What are you trying to do, you jerk? Make everybody sick?"
Forgot his mask. Forgot my COVID mask. His COVID mask. Nobody gets a pass. That stupid mask. Can't even pump my gas. Without a mask. without a COVID mask. Honey, I'm home.
What do you want?
I need to come in and get my mask.
Don't let Daddy in the house, Mommy. He's not wearing his mask.
No mask, no entry. Sorry.
But, honey...
You should have taken it with you. You're not getting in this house. I changed the locks.
They were preparing for a spell. Somehow.
Look, Jack's pulling off and reattaching. He's hot.
It's what makes us werewolves.
We made.
So, if you pull it off, that's good, right? He won't be a werewolf. You don't know.
We do know that doing nothing is killing him.
Respirators and surgical masks are two types of personal protective equipment, or PPE, that are used to protect workers in healthcare settings. A surgical mask is not a respirator, and that's an important distinction for you and your employer to understand. So let's review the significant differences between a respirator and a surgical mask. What is a respirator? A respirator is a type of personal protective equipment designed to reduce your exposure to airborne contaminants. Respirators are available in different types and sizes, and the respirator you use must be individually selected to fit your face and to provide a tight seal. A proper seal between your face and the respirator forces inhaled air to be pulled through the respirator's filter material and not through gaps between your face and the respirator. If your supervisor requires you to use a respirator, it must be NIOSH certified and must be used in the context of a comprehensive respiratory protection program according to OSHA's Respiratory Protection Standard 29 CFR 1910.134, which includes but is not limited to medical evaluation, fit testing, and training elements. Respirators are used routinely to protect healthcare workers against airborne infectious diseases, such as tuberculosis, anthrax, SARS, and hantavirus, because they protect against both large and small particles. What is a face mask? A face mask is a loose-fitting, disposable mask that covers your nose and mouth. Surgical masks, dental masks, medical procedure masks, isolation masks, and laser masks are all types of face masks. Face masks help stop large droplets from being spread by the person wearing them, whether that person is a patient or a healthcare worker. Face masks also keep splashes or sprays from reaching the mouth and nose of the person wearing them. However, face masks are not designed or certified to seal tightly against your face or to prevent the inhalation of small airborne contaminants. During inhalation, small airborne contaminants pass through gaps between the face and the face mask and the material of the mask. Remember, face masks are not considered respirators and they do not provide respiratory protection. Only face masks that are cleared by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA for short, may be legally marketed in the United States. The FDA approval signifies that they have been tested for their ability to resist splashes of blood and other body fluids. To offer protection, both face masks and respirators need to be worn correctly and consistently throughout the time they are being used. When used properly, face masks and respirators both play an important role in preventing exposures to different types of hazards. If you need the protection of both a face mask and a respirator, you can use a surgical N95 respirator. Surgical N95 respirators offer protection from both airborne and body fluid contaminants and are approved by both NIOSH and the FDA. During an infectious disease outbreak, such as SARS or pandemic flu, face masks and respirators should be used in conjunction with other controls and interventions that are known to prevent the spread of infection. These include engineering and administrative controls, such as installing sneeze guards and permitting teleworking, and work practices such as cough etiquette, hand hygiene, and avoiding large gatherings. For additional information on respiratory protection in the workplace, consult this website. Mention or visual display of the name of any company or product in this video does not constitute endorsement by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. This video provides a brief overview and general information regarding respirator use in your workplace. It does not cover all of the...
Over 3 million workers in the United States are required to wear respiratory protection within their job functions. The N95 respirator.
Yeah, I missed that class on account of being bad.
The mission of the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, National Personal Protective Technology Laboratory, is to prevent work-related injury, illness, and death by advancing the state of knowledge and application of personal protective. The mission of the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, National Personal Protective Technology Laboratory, is to prevent work-related injury, illness, and death by advancing the state of knowledge and application of personal protective technologies. One unique aspect of our mission is our authority to certify respirators to protect the nation's workforce against inhalation hazards. Every day, millions of workers across America rely on respirators for protection on the job. Respirators are used in most industries, including industries such as agriculture, healthcare, mining, and firefighting. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health is part of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and is the federal organization responsible for preventing work-related injury, illness, and death. It's our job at NIOSH and PPTL to ensure that all respirators used in the workplace meet rigid quality and performance standards. In fact, all workplace respirators are required to be tested and approved by NIOSH before they are used in a workplace. Only then can they carry the NIOSH mark. Hundreds of applications for product certifications are submitted to NIOSH every year from across the globe. Yet only those that meet the NIOSH requirements, about 65% of those submitted, are granted approval. Worldwide, more than 100 approval holders manufacture NIOSH-approved respirators for use in the United States internationally. What does it mean to be NIOSH-approved? Manufacturers who want to market a respirator for workers in the United States must submit a comprehensive approval package consisting of performance tests, drawings, packaging and label specifications, detailed user instructions, respirator samples, and a quality plan for making the product, as well as a quality assurance manual for the entire manufacturing facility in which it's made. NIOSH carefully reviews the data and performs rigorous testing to quality, performance, and design specifications. If the product does not meet NIOSH standards, the product cannot be labeled and marketed as NIOSH approved. If the respirator meets NIOSH standards, the manufacturer receives a testing and certification number, which appears on the product label along with the NIOSH name. Once the product has been tested and certified by NIOSH, any future changes to the certification must be submitted to NIOSH for approval. Workers, as well as employers, can verify whether they are using genuine NIOSH-certified respirators. Simply find the TC number and check it against the list of approved respirators on the NIOSH website. But the NIOSH certification process does not stop there. Even after they are approved, respirators are monitored to ensure that they continue to meet uncompromising NIOSH standards. NIOSH and PPTL will investigate any workplace situation involving a NIOSH-certified respirator when a problem is found with an approved respirator. Through product audits, reports by customers, test failures, and even reports from approval holders. Respirators are retested. If necessary, manufacturers are asked to make
corrections to the product. In some cases, the respirators are recalled from the marketplace. Ensuring that all personal protective respirators meet uncompromising NIOSH standards is vital to the health and safety in the workplace, impacting not only American workers, but the ones they love. When it comes to personal protective respirators, know it's NIOSH approved and you can breathe easy.
As a key component of its mission, NIOSH is dedicated to advancing the state of knowledge and application of personal protective technologies, including air purifying respirators, which will be referred to as respirators in this video. Various types of these respirators, such as filtering facepiece respirators and elastomeric half-mask respirators, are used to reduce personal exposure to potentially harmful aerosols. The term aerosol includes both solid and liquid airborne particles of varying size, shape, and density that are often invisible to the naked eye. Whether it's a virus or bacteria, concrete dust, or engineered nanoparticle, it's important to understand that the type of particle does not affect its ability to be filtered. A particle is a particle. This means that respirators can be used to protect workers from a wide variety of aerosols. For example, respirators can be used to protect a healthcare worker who might be exposed to tuberculosis or other airborne pathogens. To protect a construction worker from airborne particles generated by sawing concrete. Or to protect a laboratory technician who handles engineered nanoparticles. All respirators selected by Respiratory Protection Program administrators must pass NIOSH's stringent certification process. NIOSH certifies respirators based on how efficiently they filter airborne particles and how resistant they are to oil. For example, the most commonly used respirator is an N95 filtering facepiece respirator, which filters at least 95% of airborne particles and is not resistant to oil. To ensure optimum protection, respirator users should only wear respirators selected by their organization's Respiratory Protection Program administrators as being the most appropriate for their working conditions. As the user breathes and causes air to pass through the filter, the dense network of fibers in a respirator capture particles through a combination of three mechanical methods: impaction, interception, and diffusion. Some respirators contain charged fibers that use a fourth method, electrostatic attraction, to attract nearby particles. Impaction occurs when a particle's inertia prevents it from adjusting as the airflow carrying it into a respirator changes direction when it nears a filter fiber. In this capture method, the particle hits a fiber head-on and becomes stuck. Other particles can become attached when the airstream carries them within one particle radius of a fiber. This is referred to as interception. Diffusion occurs when smaller particles follow a random motion as they are bombarded by air molecules. Those that come into contact with a worker's respirator are captured by its network of fibers. With all of these capture methods, once a particle comes in contact with a filter fiber, it is removed from the airstream and strongly held to the fiber by molecular attractive forces. If the respirator contains electrostatically charged fibers, that charge will cause more particles to be captured. The method of capture is largely influenced by the characteristics of a particle, such as aerodynamic diameter, density, and charge. However, the filter's ability to capture a particle is not affected by whether that particle is a virus, concrete dust, or engineered nanoparticle. Remember, a particle is a particle. NIOSH tests respirator filters for their ability to capture particles that might be found in occupational situations. The conditions, such as particle challenge, and the flow rate for certification testing of air purifying respirators, are believed to represent near worst-case conditions for all types of workplaces, meaning the test conditions produce maximum filter penetration. This ensures that filters in NIOSH-approved respirators will collect hazardous workplace aerosols with very high efficiency. Based on the considerable collective knowledge of the scientific community regarding aerosol filtration, it is not necessary to test a respirator filter with a biological aerosol because certification testing applies a worst-case set of test conditions. Again, because a particle is a particle, when properly selected and used, NIOSH-approved respirators should provide the expected levels of protection against all types of workplace aerosols. This video was produced by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health with assistance from RTI International, an independent nonprofit research institute. The focus of this video is how particles are captured. If you have questions about determining what type of respirator is appropriate for your...
So by this point, you're probably aware that your body needs oxygen to survive, right? In fact, every cell in your body needs that precious oxygen. Those cells use the oxygen to produce energy in the form of ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, a super important molecule, sometimes even called the molecular unit of currency. The cells use it to basically pay the molecules inside the cell to do their specific jobs. It's like one big factory with a bunch of workers that all have specific jobs needed to run the factory, and they only take ATP as payment. Now, the mitochondrion of the cell takes in oxygen and makes ATP to pay the workers through a process called oxidative phosphorylation. So the mitochondrion is like the factory's payroll department, right? When the cell doesn't get enough oxygen, and so payroll can't produce the ATP that they need to pay the workers to do their jobs, the whole cellular factory can be damaged or even die. And we call that process hypoxia, where hypo means less than normal, and oxia means oxygenation. When the oxygen comes in, typically it goes straight to payroll, specifically to the inner mitochondrial membrane, where oxidative phosphorylation takes place. Oxygen is used in one of the last steps and serves as an electron acceptor, and this allows the process to finish and produce ATP. So without oxygen, we can't finish oxidative phosphorylation and produce ATP. But why does the whole factory fall apart when payroll stops making ATP? Why don't they just pause for a bit or take a little break? Well, when certain workers stop doing their jobs, things get a little out of hand. One super important worker is the sodium-potassium pump on the cell's membrane. Pretty much like the bouncer that makes sure there isn't too much sodium diffusing into the cell, basically by pumping it back out every time it diffuses in, and maintaining a concentration gradient.
Do you know where the book is?
This process also keeps too many water molecules from passively diffusing into the cell. Think of it like this. Water molecules want to go every which way and are constantly moving back and forth, inside and outside the cell. But all these sodium ions on this side tend to physically block them from leaving that side. So over time, more water molecules get retained or almost trapped on the side with more sodium. In short, the more sodium molecules, the more water molecules. But our pump doesn't do all this for free, and it needs ATP. So without ATP, it stops pumping sodium back out, and sodium starts to diffuse in. And it keeps diffusing in, and the concentration gradient goes away. Now, with less sodium molecules in the outside blocking the water molecules from going into the cell, water follows the sodium in, which causes the cell to swell up. And when the cell swells up, a couple things start to happen. First, usually you have these really tiny microvilli on the cell's membrane, which sort of look like little fingers that help increase the cell's surface area and therefore help the cell absorb more things. When the cell swells up and gets all bloated, the water sort of fills these little fingers and reduces the surface area, which makes it harder to absorb molecules since there's less surface area, right? Also, sort of along the same lines, the cell can bleb, or bulge outward from all this water. And this is a sign that the cell's cytoskeleton, or this structural framework, is beginning to fail, and is letting water slip through. Finally, the rough endoplasmic reticulum, or the rough ER, also swells when the cell swells. And remember that the rough ER has all these little ribosomes on its outside, and these are really important for the cell in making proteins. But when the rough ER swells, they detach and stop making proteins, so protein synthesis goes down. All the ATP isn't immediately lost, though, when you lose oxygen and oxidative phosphorylation stops. Luckily, your cell can make ATP another way, called anaerobic glycolysis. Anaerobic meaning in the absence of oxygen. This is like the backup ATP generator, which isn't nearly as efficient and only produces a net of about 2 ATP molecules per glucose, whereas oxidative phosphorylation makes about 30 to 36. So it helps a little, but what also happens is it produces a byproduct called lactic acid, which lowers the pH inside the cell. This more acidic environment can denature or essentially destroy proteins and enzymes. Now, up to this point, it's not all bad, because one super important thing about these processes that happen to the cell is that they're potentially reversible, meaning that if we all of a sudden get oxygen again and start making ATP, then these changes aren't necessarily permanent. After enough time, though, irreversible damage can happen to the cell. Kind of like the sodium-potassium pump, there's also a calcium pump that helps keep too much calcium from getting in. And if that stops working, then calcium starts to build up, which is not a great thing. First, calcium can activate certain enzymes that you might not necessarily want to activate, like proteases that can slice up proteins and damage the cell's cytoskeleton, which remember is the structural framework that keeps the cell together. Also, endonucleases can be activated, which can cut up DNA, the cell's genetic material. And if we get back to the lactic acid, as more lactic acid builds up and the environment gets more acidic, the lysosomal membrane can be damaged as well, which usually houses these hydrolytic enzymes whose job is basically to grind up large molecules. And when they get out, well, they're also activated by calcium, and then they just start cutting everything in sight and basically start digesting the cell from the inside. Finally, the phospholipase enzyme, which basically splits phospholipids, gets activated. Since the cell's membrane's made of phospholipids, these can destroy the cell membrane, which is probably the most important sign of irreversible damage. When the membrane's destroyed, these enzymes we just listed, along with others, can leak out into the blood and continue wreaking havoc. Finally, let's jump back to calcium. Enzyme activation isn't the only effect calcium can have. Calcium can actually get into the mitochondria, causing a cascade that leads the mitochondrial membrane to be more permeable to small molecules. And so it lets a molecule that usually stays in the mitochondria, cytochrome C, to leak out into the cytosol. And this is a big red flag to the cell that things have gone south, and is kind of analogous to the self-destruct button. And activates a process called apoptosis, or programmed cell death. And this is a bit like cellular suicide. At this point, the cell's not in good shape, right? And all this happened eventually because of a lack of oxygen, or because of hypoxia.
Why didn't he just kill us?
He's saving us for target practice.
You should probably.
Give him some space. Great idea.
I was thinking more like a group hug. Why was he there? What was he thinking?
He was trying to save you. Jack. Just forget the tough Pete for once.
Pops was the only family I ever had. And now he's gone.
If you go back there, you'll die.
As long as he dies first.
Why does it have to be revenge?
Why are you trying to protect him?
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to protect you. There's another way to stop it.
so sorry about your grandfather.
Let's just not talk about it.
Okay, let's talk about Lilith. Where is she?
She wolfed out and distracted Edward, bought me time to escape.
And then
I don't know.
I'll check her hide locker.
What were you thinking? We had a plan.
Alyssa was in danger. I had to help her. Is that all right with you?
No, because you keep doing whatever you want to do and people end up dead.
Lilith's hide isn't there.
Or missing, just as bad. The point is, how many more people need to die because of you?
Only one more.
Look, Jack.
Right now we have to focus on killing Coventry.
We have to rescue Lilith.
What we have to do is get that book away from Edward.
I don't recall our last Marvel team up working out so well.
The book is key to everything. And right now, Edward is at his most vulnerable.
You sure about that?
He needs to complete the final sacrifice before the Vadimecum will bond with him.
What's the final sacrifice?
His son.
His firstborn son. You know what we need to do to beat Coventry? Absolutely nothing.
What the fuck? Grand Magus.
Kepler. Kepler, why are you here?
Because you summoned me.
Why do we keep the Gnostic Council around?
I like to think of us as the Order's voice of reason, Magus.
Do you think Vera considered herself the voice of reason when she conspired to take the Vadimecum away from me?
I assure you, Magus, I knew nothing about Vera's intentions.
You're telling the truth.
I am. Magus, I am telling the truth. If I'd known anything, I would have come to you immediately.
Wait while you're at it. Hibbings is dead. Vera betrayed me. That leaves me with you.
Yes, Magus. Thank you.
Werewolves are circling. You're trying to take the Vadimecum away from me. It's your job to stop them. Do you understand? Send some disciples to my house, get my son. I want him here with me.
At once.
And Kepler. I'm going to dissolve the Gnostic Council. Not literally.
Thank God.
You're welcome.
Dude, we cannot leave Lilith in there.
You heard Alyssa. Lilith made her choice.
She sacrificed herself for your girlfriend. You're gonna thank her by leaving her there?
We both know she can take care of herself.
Doesn't mean she should have to.
I thought we gave our lives to the cause.
Yes, but the oath doesn't say anything about abandoning our friends.
She should want my help anyways. Why would she get her killed?
Good luck talking any sense into him.
Nothing? That's your big plan?
That is my plan.
I can't believe you're just gonna run away.
I'm not running. I'm laying low, and then when Edward fails to pay the final sacrifice...
You mean as soon as he finishes murdering your little brother?
He's not my brother, okay?
Keep telling yourself that.